found as More Podcast, where we want you to know God more deeply, find lasting freedom, discover your destiny, and make an eternal difference. Now,
Hey, well, welcome to this week's podcast. We're glad to have you back here again. The More Podcast is now fortified with more vitamins and nutrition that you need to make your spiritual health even better. Just one weekly helping added to your current media diet, and you'll feel like $1 million gospel bucks. That is a product promise from More Podcasts. Just ask our current subscribers that listen to our podcast on a weekly basis. They tend to feel a lot better, don't you think, Pastor Gary?
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and they seem to look better, too. Like they're getting a little sun in their diet, a little something extra than everybody else. Well, here to help me with your weekly dose of more goodness, a man who is in a current fight with the Food and Drug Administration to make maple syrup its own food group, Pastor Gary.
Woo woo!
Yeah.
Yes,
you're going to get it on there.
My grandkids are like, chug it, chug it, chug it.
If you can get that on the pyramid, like its own bracket, right? It's just like, vegetables, fruit, maple syrup.
Right. Somebody sent me maple syrup, homemade from northern Michigan when I was in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Oh. And I as soon as I received it, I opened it. I was like, well, I don't have pancakes. I slammed it.
That's what you do with it.
It was amazing.
Yeah. I like maple syrup, but the funny thing is whenever I go over to people's houses, they always pull out, we have like a breakfast dinner together. They'll bring out the really good stuff, like the bougie maple syrup. And I'm like, no, I just want the fake stuff that says butter on it. I just like that. So I don't know why.
Give me the high fructose.
Yeah. They're like,
syrup.
don't you want to try this stuff that was, aged and barreled 20 years? No, I'm just take the cheap stuff. Well, sitting to the left of me, you've already heard his voice, the center of many conspiracy theories in our church that he might be an MMA fighter on the weekends, Dave Batchelor.
There he is.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. When you had that goatee going and that beard, like the goatee beard kind of thing going on there for a while, the first time I saw you in church, I'm like, I think that guy is a prize fighter. And then I went and talked to you, and I'm like, no, it's not the guy, but he still looks like him,
It happens occasionally. I've had people come up to me in restaurants and be like, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, seriously, I'd have to be like...
I would just go ahead and sign the autograph. Just do it.
Yeah. I'm going to start doing that. I have to grow the goatee back, though.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, Dave Batchelor, what? This is not the same guy.
This doesn't say Conor McGregor.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of his name.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor. Yeah, that's who you look like. Yeah, look it up. And imagine Dave with a beard on, and he looks seriously like the guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I stay in the gym long enough, maybe. But we'll see.
Well, when he's standing up next to his competitors, he doesn't look like super big.
Yeah.
He's just mean in the octagon. That's the thing.
He's nasty.
And finally, the man in charge of the microphone.
Here we go.
The only man to ever think that moonwalking actually took place on the moon, Pastor Alex.
Yes. Oh, I went through my Michael Jackson phase. Yes, yeah. Yeah, that was a good time. I won't tell you that.
I remember watching Pastor Alex doing all of his Michael Jackson moves.
Yeah.
Practicing his moonwalk. He would slow down the video in slow motion so he could figure out the footwork on that.
Yeah, and I never got it. I'm not really coordinated like that. And so my moonwalk kind of looks like a redneck backflip kind of thing, or like backstroke. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. For whatever it's called, it does not look good.
I think it should be posted.
It should be posted. People, people try to say, hey, you should do this. What was it during the school year? They wanted me to do some dance with the suit on. Mm-hmm. And I tried to do it, and they're like, no, don't do it anymore.
Was it the floss?
No, it was some sort of
gritty. Was it the gritty?
Yeah, the gritty. That's what it's called.
You got to practice that.
Yeah.
I know how to do the gritty.
You do?
I do.
I don't.
You have to kick it has to go heel down.
Oh, heel down.
Yeah, heel down. You got to lean, and you got to do this arm action while your heels are going down.
Well, I'll work on it.
Isn't it amazing how a video game can make it to every NFL touchdown has the gritty now?
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Well, video games don't affect anything.
Of course
Gary.
not.
What are you talking about?
They don't. No
influence
They're harmless
whatsoever.
They're harmless. I mean,
Fortnite. Excuse me.
I know guys that are my age that play that game.
Oh, yeah.
And they're pretty serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the crazy thing is, I have some people in my life that are younger, and they watch other people play the game.
That I don't get. I don't understand that. Like they will sit there and watch on
learning
YouTube.
different moves and different
We had Game Genie back in the day. You remember Game Genie?
No.
For Super Nintendo, it had all the cheat codes in it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I know. I watch those guys, and they'll sit there for hours watching these people play, and I'm like, is that exciting? Really? I mean, you're not playing it. You're just watching somebody else do all the work.
Yeah.
Apparently it is. And, some of these guys become YouTube sensations by doing that.
Now they
money.
fill up stadiums and have competitions on this stuff.
And they make money playing these games.
Yep, lots of money.
And you can spend a lot of money, too, let's be honest. I mean, buying all those extra features in those
Skins
games.
and all that.
Oh, my gosh. All right, so summer conversation icebreakers that we wanted to give you this year. Like whenever in the summer you're trying to figure out what you're going to talk about on the boats or standing around the barbecue, we like to give you like stories that we found that we think are interesting things to bring up. And you know what? I think, Dave, you should read this first one.
This is such a great story.
This is a good one. I think, Dave, go ahead and read this one. This is good.
So this story is about a dog named Scooter.
Yeah.
And he actually wins the ugliest dog competition.
I love it.
This is super wild. So the 7-year-old Chinese crested dog with reversed hind legs. Okay, so get that in your...
Wait a minute. His legs are in the wrong direction.
Do you breathe that in?
His legs are in the wrong direction is what we're saying.
Somebody twisted him and then put his legs down. So he's got reversed hind legs, so put that in your mind.
Yeah.
He's nearly bald, but just a little bit of white wispy hairs. That's all he's got. So he's a very special dog. But it's those kinds of peculiar... I'm sorry.
Say that again.
Peculiarities.
Yeah, you like that?
That endeared the pooch to the judges at the world's ugliest dog contest. And this was in Petaluma, California.
Yeah.
And he took home the grand prize. It was pretty impressive.
Really?
And you can look him up. The pictures are, I mean, if you can seriously not laugh or at least smile looking at these photos, I would probably.
The dog is super ugly.
I mean, he's so ugly, he's cute.
Yeah.
You know? And he's got,
Have you ever touched one of those dogs before?
I've never seen one in real life.
It's unnerving.
Really?
Because they, normally when you touch a dog, you're thinking they're going to have fur. And it's now they're like, sometimes in the summer when they're really hot, they're kind of like slimy. Like, I don't know. It's like touching a lizard or something. I don't know. It's just nasty.
So Scooter's pink wayward tongue may be drooping from his mouth. This contest title, however, is meant to be tongue-in-cheek. And now this contest has been held for over 50 years.
Well, that's a long time.
These little dogs are uniquely beautiful by celebrating their imperfections and making them all special, and to advocate for adoption. So that's good, right?
Yeah.
So pet adoption is important. There's lots of them out there that need to be adopted.
Yeah, that's good.
From the second he sits his hairless little body and backward legs on your lap, you feel his warm, huggable power to change the meaning of the word ugly, said NBC host Gotti Schwartz, one of the competition's judges.
Great.
So, that's interesting.
That dog would not come near me. There's no way.
I don't think I'd go near the dog, to be honest.
That's just nasty. Backward legs and a tongue hanging out. Yeah, because that breed loses its teeth all the time, right?
I mean, a lot of little dogs do. And their breath is horrible, so their teeth rot out of their head and end up having to be pulled. They sell those little greenies for like $500 for a 2-ounce bag of them, and they don't really work.
They don't know. The dog looks drunk all the time. That's what it looks like with his tongue
without
hanging out.
hair. He's going to have, not a flea problem.
That's true. That's right. Yeah. No fleas, but it
looks like he has mange.
I'm just not going to touch.
Pastor Alex, you and I have never had fleas.
No, we have not. Yeah, that's true.
We're all set.
Maybe.
Okay.
That's as long as
you
I leave
may
my
have
shirt.
had fleas.
That's as long as I leave my shirt on because my back hair is pretty
back
thick.
hair.
Yeah.
Oh,
back hair can be used for fleas. So
Get yourself a monkey. He'll take care of it.
Have a monkey picking off. Yeah.
The more monkey.
Speaking of monkeys, we're going to Indonesia for a mission trip, and I'm excited about going. And we're going to a monkey. What do you call those places? Where they save them?
Refuge.
Refuge. Thank you.
All right.
Going to a monkey refuge, and you can hang out with the monkeys. I'm like, I'm
Wait
there.
a minute.
You're in on that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going.
I mean, you're hanging out with a couple of monkeys right now. So.
You know what's crazy is my wife hates monkeys.
Really?
Planet of the Apes, nightmares.
She didn't like it.
I put on a nature show the other day and had a monkey on the cover. She's like, we're not watching it.
Really?
She is definitely not about monkeys.
Oh my gosh, I love them. That's one of my bucket list pets is to get a monkey at some point.
Those movies are what nightmares are made of. Like if
Yeah.
that really
Yeah.
happened.
Mm-hmm.
And a chimpanzee, there's lots of stories out there of them ripping people's faces off. And
Right.
stuff.
I don't want one of those.
No. Smaller.
But
Go
the
smaller.
Capuchin monkey is the one that I heard they can get in Michigan.
The Ace Ventura monkey.
Yeah, little tiny guy. But these things are so smart that you can train them to turn on microwaves, put dishes in the dishwasher, grab stuff out of a fridge. They're way better than a dog. Way better than a dog. Yeah. So just imagine that. Hey, off of this story real quick, Pastor Gary, did you get my text about the figs?
I didn't. What was it?
Oh, I sent you were talking about figs and how much you hated the figs.
Yeah.
So my wife and I were looking online to see, how figs come about and all this other stuff.
Uh-huh.
It is nasty. Figs do not pollinate themselves. They have to be pollinated by a wasp fig.
Okay.
That crawls into the fig, lays its eggs, and then they die.
For real?
For real.
Huh. I didn't get that text. But
that is a natural fig. But now I guess science has done well where they've removed that process. So now they do it on their own without having to do all that. Oh. But that's the figs you would have eaten in Israel would have had been pollinated by a wasp. Yeah.
Extra protein.
Isn't that disgusting?
Yeah, because I thought that was sand on the inside that I was eating.
No, that's not. Well, okay. I don't know what the ones you're eating, but the ones that they were talking about.
These are dried figs.
Yeah, the ones that you eat in Israel that are right off the tree, a lot of those are pollinated by what's called a fig wasp that goes in and lays eggs and dies. That is nasty.
Tasty. Okay.
Yeah. So I was throwing it out there for you.
Yeah,
just one more reason why not to like a fig.
Yeah, I had a couple of people calling in about fig Newtons are their favorite.
Yeah.
That's just bad for your mouth. That's just really gross.
That's what you're eating is wasps.
Yeah.
Wasp eggs. Yeah. You're
coated in a soft breaded yuck. Right?
It's like a smushed corn dog, except inside is figs.
Yeah.
I mean, we're worried about hot dogs and all this other stuff, and you're eating see, this is why I'm not a vegetarian. People can tell me all the time, being a vegetarian is the healthiest thing you do. You're eating a fruit that some other insect dies in, and then you're eating that as though that's normal. Come on. And you won't eat a hot dog that has a few little pig ears in it.
Yeah, some lips.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a deep fried corn dog? Oh, it's corn dog to the next level.
Those are so good.
Deep fried corn dogs.
Where does this exist?
Well, we used to have a guy here at Harbor Light that had a food truck, and he sold them. And I will tell you, I had 7 of them in one helping. They were very good.
That's a serving. Is
yeah, 7.
That's a holy number.
Serving.
Yeah, right. 7. I want to get up to the Jesus number.
Yeah,
and I'm good.
7 deep fried corn dogs.
What a good idea for family camp.
It was good.
Deep fried. Well, they sold those at Big Ticket.
Did they?
Yeah, okay. I was tempted to get one, but heartburn. That's the problem with those. Anything deep fried, wonderful, but heartburn kicks in at some point. I just didn't feel like singing songs to David Crowder and puking my guts out at the same time. So
that's weird. Yeah.
Why? All right. So another news item that you might want to know. I know this is something that you're just going to talk about.
This is water cooler.
This is water cooler information.
Yeah.
You're standing around the barbecue. You're like, what do I talk about to somebody that just showed up to my barbecue? Here you go. The special ingredient that's going to be in the Mars travel meals is really interesting. You want to know, well, how are they going to travel so far and then have what they need to eat while they're there? According to NASA, it is astronaut breath. That's an ingredient in the food. Apparently, the breath of an astronaut mixed with water and yeast starter, electricity, and a rolling pin, and we can basically make food on Mars without having to really worry about having food. Isn't that interesting?
You know what? Just for a second, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Just for a second. So we have world hunger.
Right.
And you can make food out of somebody's breath.
Right, yeah. Apparently, the scientists found out, his name is Sheehan, found out that there's a way to use your breath to be the yeast starter that you need to start food. And so you can mix all this stuff together and then you breathe in it and something is in your breath naturally that can do a lot of things. He's also found ways to use the carbon dioxide in our breath to create alcohol, perfume, and then obviously a yeast starter. And so his company is in the running for the food that's going to be taken up to Mars. So all you have to do is open up the bag, breathe in it, and you're going to have food ready to go in a couple hours.
Yeah, that could solve world hunger, man.
I know. What?
I mean, really.
It all depends on whose breath it is.
Oh,
right?
I see. Yeah. Some are stanky.
Right. This food smells like something, man. What's going on?
This one smells like coffee breath. Anyone else check this? Did anyone else get this bag?
Get a little
morning
taste of
blend.
coffee.
I got some morning blend.
It's like the one MRE. It's the one MRE that nobody wanted.
Oh,
They're
my
like, here,
gosh.
take this one, man.
Well, I'm just kind of picturing if you had the alcohol drink and then trying to do the moonwalk. If that
On Mars, you could do really good.
Yeah.
On Mars, you could really do. Well, the other day, my wife, we were getting ready to go up and pray with some people. And my wife's like, man, you need to eat a mint because you're going to knock people out.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to think something happened with the Holy Spirit and it's all your breath.
There you go.
I'm like, yeah, that's bad. Pastor Gary, you want to do the last one here?
No, I'm good.
Oh, you want? I'll take it over.
I like just adding color.
Okay. This last one is good. Service dog gets his own college diploma. I didn't think maybe you have ever heard that before, but apparently a dog
University of Phoenix.
Yeah. College diploma. This is kind of a heart-touching story because I think if you're going to share this one around the water cooler, it's going to be a good one. This guy and his dog, they got through college together. Or I'm sorry, this girl and his dog. When Grace Mariani took to the stage, she received her diploma at Seton Hall University this week. Her service dog, Justin, was right beside her getting the diploma as well. Her fellow graduates cheered as school president Joseph Nair handed Mariani her diploma. She earned a BS in education, graduating magna cum laude. And then Nair held out a diploma for Justin, and the crowd inside the Prudential Center went insane.
Yep, that's BS right there.
It's BS, yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I like what you did there. But yeah, it was a teary moment. People are like, oh my gosh. Apparently the dog had been into every class with her. I'm not sure the dog picked up anything. But, I guess the people that are sitting around the room are like, oh, that was so sweet. Like what happened there? So anyways, that's some stuff to talk about. Do you like stories about animals, Pastor Gary?
As long as they're edible.
Well, you don't eat these though. These are family pets.
There is a place for all of God's animals.
Yeah,
and
apparently
it's right next to the mashed potatoes.
I love
Oh no, I'm sorry for all of our dog lovers out there. But
I love animals.
Yeah,
especially the tasty ones.
Coming from the critter commander.
I know.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
Does my breath smell like skunk a little bit?
Yeah, right. We had skunk bacon this morning. It was so good.
We had a skunk in daylight last night outside of our window, and it had to be like trying to climb in the window. It's so strong. I know they come out during the thaw, but what's going on right now?
So right now, a lot of the adolescent skunks are up and moving.
Okay.
They're at that age now where they're cruising around.
Okay.
Looking for food. In fact, I actually just trapped 3 skunks at one of our church members' houses recently, and one of them nailed me. It was awful.
Oh, really?
I underestimated this little Peppy.
Okay.
Let me tell you, it nailed me. And
So how do you get that smell off you? I've heard a lot of different.
So the best way to get the smell off, in my garage, I walk in and I take off all my clothes that I had on and my shoes, and then I take a bag and I throw them in the garbage.
Okay.
That's the
Step
best
one.
way. Yeah.
I'm never going to try it.
Then
Again.
my wife brings me a bucket
Yeah.
of peroxide, Dawn dish soap, and baking soda.
Baking soda, yeah.
And then I enjoy like 4 or 5, prison baths in the garage.
Okay.
She holds the brush. It's like really coarse.
Oh,
Like,
she stays away from me.
Scrape you up, buddy.
She's like, you are not allowed to come in this house until that is gone.
wow.
She throws her hip into it and everything.
Yeah. Oh, when they do that, you might
Yeah.
as well,
It's serious.
don't mess with them. That's good to know. I mean, I've never confronted a skunk before, and I don't plan on doing it anytime soon. But if it ever happens, I'll plan on using that little formula.
Well, my first mistake was I grabbed it with my bare hand and by the scruff, and I picked it up, and it tried to bite me, and I kind of shook it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it nailed me. I mean, it was, Pastor Gary's face right now.
Yeah, so I was under the impression that if his back legs aren't on the ground, he can't shoot off the sphincter.
So these little guys turn their tail,
Okay.
and these are adolescent skunks. I'm not grabbing a full-size skunk.
Okay.
No
yeah.
way.
Right. Yeah.
And he started spraying, I think, right when I grabbed him. Because as soon as I had him on the ground, I went, and I pinched his back scruff there, that skin on his neck. And I picked him up, and he was trying to bite me. And yeah, it was kind of funny because the young lady who lives there was watching me through the window like, this guy is insane.
Yeah.
He is dumb.
Did you go up to her door and say, it's time to pay me? And she's like, I'll Venmo you the money.
I totally just walked away and said, all right, that little bugger got
No,
me.
actually, that's a really good scheme, right?
Yeah.
I'll get rid of this if you pay
right.
me now. Otherwise, I'm dropping it.
It's gone.
Well, it's an extra $25 to put it in a mailbox. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you have a trank license for these things?
I have a license to the DNR.
Yeah, so you can trank some of these that are a little too vicious.
I've looked at net guns, tranquilizer,
Yeah.
all the things, but I have to follow the laws of Michigan. So
Can you trank in Michigan?
Not that I'm aware of, unless the DNR does tranquilize certain animals and move them. But no, I do not.
It did. They did trank a bear over by my house in UP when we lived up there.
Really?
Yeah, we had a black bear up in our tree, and they hit it twice to get it to come down.
Was it a 30-06 or was it a
I have no idea. No, it was alive when they got it, and then they just dragged it off on a tarp, and then they took it back to the Hiawatha Forest.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was like, that was by my house in the city of Escanaba. Yeah. All right, we're gonna take an identity break. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for more? Well, then you found it right here on More Podcast. Stay tuned. Looking for a go-to eatery that has awesome food? Well, Paper Station in downtown Harbor Springs is sure to have your next favorite. From their signature station burger to the golden crispiness of a hand-dipped onion ring, enjoy the flavors that make this a must-stop today. Paper Station.
Get Rapture ready with your favorite host today, Pastor Gary and Pastor Alex Norton, as they come to you with information that you need to make it through the times coming ahead and more.
I love that. If you aren't moving right now, there's something wrong.
Right, yeah, you should be.
Well, welcome back from the commercial break there. You have picked up the fact that we've got the Critter Commander in the studio, Studio 1211 here today. And so we're getting lots of great information about the capture of those
squirrels and everything
nighttime bandits. But
and the stuff he uses to take baths with.
Yeah, that was really helpful information. You need that.
Yeah, you do need that.
So three ingredients: peroxide,
and then baking
soda, and
Dawn dish soap.
Dawn dish soap.
Yep.
Okay.
And
that
a strong
is the
brush.
mixture you need. Now, that will work on your dog as well, I would imagine.
It will, depending on how thick their hair is.
Okay.
That's going to determine how many times you need to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my dog got it one time, and it was about 4 or 5 baths of whatever I was using.
Somebody's, one time that we got a dog that got hit, and they said, use tomato juice.
Yeah.
And that didn't work very well. It actually made it smell worse.
Yeah. And if you want to stain your tub, it's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And gentlemen out there, if you ever get sprayed by a skunk, I recommend not letting your wife use a wire brush on you to scrub you. Just FYI.
Yeah, it becomes abuse after a while. It's like, really? Do you have to rub that hard on me?
Why am I bleeding?
Yeah, right. Oh, that's not you. That's the juice. It's okay. You're fine. Okay, so in our Rapture Ready News, I got an interesting article that I found. Oh my gosh, it's so sinister. You want to talk about the devil trying to find ways to get into church? This is exactly one of those devices that he's using. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term RAD before, which stands for Rapture Anxiety Disorder. And this story came from CNN. It's really interesting how this person is dealing with this. They said basically April, who was 13 years old, knew something wasn't right. Her house in Dallas was too quiet. They were no longer there, referring to her parents. A pile of their mother's clothes. Her mother's clothes was on the floor, and her parents' bed was kind of disheveled, but with clothes laying on it as though they had just worn them. April's mind started to race as she tried to remember and began to make plans. When did she last do something wrong? Should she say no to the beast's mark? She thought that if she was put to death by the guillotine during the time of trouble, at least it would be quick, and she was wondering if she was ready for when that would happen. Apparently, millions of people who grow up in Christian communities are taught that the rapture can happen anytime from the time that they are old enough to understand. And even though there are different ideas about how this would happen, the basic idea is the same. The good Christians go to heaven and the bad Christians are left to suffer, according to the article. No matter how it comes about, believers should both fear and welcome it. They should pray about it and be ready for it at all times. Well, April grew up in an evangelical church where she was always reminded that the end of the world was coming soon. And so she was told to never sin because it might be the last thing that she did on earth before she came back. Dramatic books and movies about the rapture were shown as she grew up and gave her real glimpses as to the end of the world, which made her all the more nervous. She said that when I was probably 8 or 9, my brother and I spent about 30 minutes looking up at the sky every day. April told the reporter, we took turns counting down from 10, and while we were doing it, we were sure Jesus was coming to get us then. April, who is now 34, is part of a growing group of people called ex-evangelicals who have left some evangelical Pentecostal and Baptist churches because apparently those are the ones that talk about the rapture, and they think that their beliefs are harmful. She has a popular TikTok account where she talks about faith and, among other things, the long-lasting effects of traumatic religious experience. I read another article, which is interesting, that there are people that are trying to sue pastors and the churches that teach this as though it is considered abuse now. And some lawyers are starting to take up the case. We know that in Scripture, 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 through 4, it says, all praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. It is by his great grace and mercy that we have been born again, because God raised Jesus Christ from the dead. Now we live with great expectations, and we have a priceless inheritance, an inheritance that is kept in heaven for you, pure and undefiled, beyond the reach of the change and decay. Wow. Are you kidding me?
No.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting that, you wouldn't hear about any other faith on earth
Right.
being leaders of those faiths being sued for the things that they've preached or believed, right? Because that would be wrong.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. I know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting how they're framing it in the context of abuse. That because we're preaching the Bible on a Sunday, which, by the way, is by people's choice. I don't think any church that I've ever experienced, the church here at Harbor Light, we don't drag people in and make them come to church on Sunday. We don't make them listen to the sermon. It's all free choice. If you want to stay, you can. If you want to leave, you can. But for people to start framing it in this idea and actually giving it a name, rapture anxiety disorder, which is now actually being looked at in some of the medical journals as being a real thing, that is nuts. That basically puts a crosshair on the church as though we're not just a religious entity or a group that should be protected. We shouldn't be protected now because we're creating abuse within our congregations and in our churches. You want to talk about a new attack by the devil? This is interesting because this is just relatively new. This actual term, rapture anxiety disorder, has just come out in the last year or two. It's actually just been framed in that way, and lawyers are starting to get involved with it, saying that we can go after these people. If you feel like you're being verbally abused because somebody on church, the pastor or somebody talks about rapture, and you have a disorder from it, anxiety disorder, well, you can now bring a lawsuit against them. Are you ready for that, Pastor Gary?
I'm ready. Bring it.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yep. I'm just going to, I'm repeating the words of Jesus.
Right. And the thing is, why would this all of a sudden become a problem? Because you and I both grew up in a time where, we watched these movies, not Left Behind, but Thief in the Night and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they were encouraging. You saw it, Dave?
Yes, I did. I just have a question.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, I have the answer.
Okay, here we go.
Because you asked a question.
Yeah.
Why now? Because we've created this whole environment of victims.
Yeah, you're right.
This entire country, nowadays, everyone is a victim somehow, some way. I rant about this in my kitchen. My wife just sits there and goes, yes, dear, But I'm serious.
Yeah.
Everything now is hurtful.
Yep.
Everyone's offended by every little thing. That's exactly what this is. It's no different from every little thing on the new agenda.
Yeah, right.
That is creating victims across the globe. And honestly, I would even venture to say that it's really more of our problem here.
Right, yeah.
Because other countries think we're ridiculous with this stuff. I mean, it's not, it's
Right. We have first world problems.
Yeah, and we're running out of things to be offended about, so why
Right.
not this now,
The first time you go to the psychologist and said, I need depression medication because I have RAD, you just laugh them out of the office. Are you serious?
You are pretty rad. You guys
Yeah.
are pretty rad.
I know that used to be a great term back in the day, right?
I'm still using it. They're not
Yeah.
stealing it.
Rad.
Not
They take
this.
everything. They take the rainbow and they take this.
Not this.
What else
one's
are they gonna
stealing
take?
This.
I know.
Rad dad. Hashtag.
I'm tired of it. I'm tired of them taking everything from us.
Stop it.
Yeah. Somebody posted on Facebook. I thought it was interesting. They were down at the Pride Parade in Chicago, and everybody's holding the Pride flags, and his flag said, "No, this is a promise. It has nothing to do with pride." On his flag.
Was that the one where the police escorted him away?
Yeah. Took him off there. Said that he was sharing hate speech.
Yeah, it's a free country. Why wouldn't they haul him away?
Well, and that's the same time a bunch of almost half naked guys are riding bikes, and they're like, "Hey, have your kids grab." They're throwing candy out to the kids and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so bad." But parents are taking them to the parades. But yeah, this is something to think about. I'll be honest with you. Granted, we talked about the rapture just a little while ago, and some aspects of it definitely seem a little unnerving when you think about it. But, as Pastor Gary shared, that stuff's going to happen after the fact that we're gone. Mm-hmm. But it is something that we should talk to people about. It is something to think about. And it is not a manipulative tool. It is the truth. It is the fact that when, the devil has total control, this is stuff's going to happen. When the Christians are gone, this is going to happen. When Holy Spirit's presence is removed from the world, there's going to be a lot of junk happening. And you know what? It's kind of like, just like when we train our kids when they're growing up, you got to be prepared for different situations that are happening. You're not trying to scare your kids into anxiety or fear, but you want them to know the truth. And that's really what we do. And, I think the way we talked about the rapture through the series was, it's a good thing. It's a blessed thing. Just like 1 Peter said, it is something that we should look at as a priceless inheritance, something that should be exciting and something that should be an encouragement to us as we look for that day for it to come. So I'm sorry, if anybody out there has ever felt like they have had anxiety over it, that really anxiety, a lot of times, if we look at it for what it is, it's conviction. It's the reminder that there's a real issue happening and you're not prepared, right? Because if you're prepared, why would you be worried?
Exactly.
Why would you be in fear?
Amen.
You don't fear something that you know is for your good. Any last thoughts on that, Pastor Gary, since you gave us that series?
Nope. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good news. Now, I did have a traumatic thing like that happen when I was in 6th grade. Came home and my parents had moved. Remember me telling that story?
Yeah.
And so I had something very similar to this young lady, but it never rocked my faith.
No.
After that night.
Did you need counseling after
No,
that?
I didn't need it, but it has made a mark on my life.
Yeah.
And something that someone has said here is that when it's presented at Harbor Light, it's something so good and something to look forward to that we're definitely not the doom and gloom people, although we do know that there is an end coming to what we're going on. And we talked about this on Sunday, of course, with Acts chapter 2, right? In the last days, my spirit will be poured out on all flesh.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. It's good.
Yeah, and then what in the first chapter of Revelations, anybody who reads it, it doesn't say that it's something that's just scare your socks off. It says it's a blessing.
Yep.
It's a blessing to know.
1 through 3.
Yeah.
Just listening to it, reading it, and hearing it preached will be a blessing in your life.
As far as I know, when I looked at the definition of blessing, it's not a negative thing.
Yeah.
Blessing is a positive thing.
Yeah,
Something
for sure.
that should be considered a good thing. All right, we're going to take a identity break, and we'll be right back. Well, here's how to have more. Know God more deeply, find lasting freedom, discover your destiny, and make an eternal difference. You're listening to More Podcast. Oh my gosh, we are here for the big question, or the big question that we have every week, but then also we have the speaker drawing today.
Yes, we have the drawing.
And I have all the names here of all the people that have been filling out those questions and sending them in emails to us.
And we're going to let the critter commander do the draw on this one.
All right.
Now, there was one young lady, Mary, correct?
Yeah.
We're really pulling for Mary.
Yeah, Mary really wants them bad. And, Linda wants one too. She feels like...
Oh, Linda hasn't gotten one?
She hasn't got one yet.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. Dave,
Critter commander, here we go.
Do you feel that? Use the force. Use the force, buddy.
This one here. Ready?
All right, yep.
Are you ready?
Who is it?
Oop, hold on. I think there might be. Hold on. Is there
We
two
got,
in there?
Nope.
No,
There was one
There's
big one.
And the winner is Nikki McCune.
Oh, Nikki.
all
All
right.
right. Nikki wins. She has been wanting one too. So, Nikki, you have a speaker coming to you on Sunday.
Way to go, Nikki.
We'll make sure that we have
Thank you for answering those
Yes.
questions, being in your Bible.
Doing a good job. And for those that have not, just remember we have more. They'll be here.
Yeah.
And you always having the chance. Just keep answering those questions and, getting your swag. Some people are like, I already got that. I'm like, well, that's all I got. So they're just
we're gonna have to have the multiple choice table.
Yeah, right. Well, you just take what you think is good. This last week, people that answered the question that you gave last podcast was Mary Wood, Ben Butnick, Alan Kerbersky, Nikki McCune, and Dave Carofino. All of them answered the
Way to go,
question.
everyone.
I think Linda did, but I couldn't find an email there.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure she probably did somewhere. So we'll just give a shout out to Linda Murray too. And those are all people that answer that. Well, if you want to be a part of this and win one of those speakers or get some swag, just write into harborlightbibletrivia@gmail.com, harborlightbibletrivia@gmail.com, all lowercase, and send us the answer to the question that we are going to give you right now. Pastor Gary.
Yes. Pastor Alex, I'm looking at you with a blank stare because I can't remember what the question was from last week.
I don't either, but we don't need to worry about the question from last week. Nope, that was a few weeks ago. I didn't take the answer. You know what? Let's just not worry about it. Let's go to the new one. Let's talk about the new question.
I do have a new question for you.
Yes.
The new question is here it is better. How many parables did Jesus tell in the book of John? So you got to look through the whole book of John and count up the number of parables that he told in the book of John.
I like that. And if you're doing that, but you also can look in what's called a harmony in your Bible. That's just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Harmony of the Gospels. Every Bible has it.
Okay.
You could get your answer there too. I'm not trying to persuade you to do anything.
I'm looking at you right now and you have no idea the answer to that question.
I'd have to look it up myself. Yep. I don't have the count in my head.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. But yeah,
you should answer the question right in and you could win some swag.
Those things are great to know, but when you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
I mean, it's like that's why I have the tools I have in my.
Yeah.
You think that we just know everything as pastors? That's not true.
Right.
I mean, that's why we have extensive libraries and.
It's always so fun when people walk up and they're like, over in Zephaniah chapter 4 verse 8, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, help me out. What does it say?
I know. Well, I feel pretty good because like whenever I play Bible trivia with somebody, I usually know quite a few answers. I can usually get them off. And then they're like, how do you know all that stuff? And I'm like, yeah, but don't ask me some other questions.
Right.
Then, yeah. And it's usually those kind of things, those references like, the passage in John 4, remember when Jesus did this? And I'm like, okay.
This is actually the answer to this one's kind of fun.
This is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
So get the count. I'm going to have to look up the count to make sure that I'm right. When they send it in and say, this is what it is, I need to know.
Okay, so one more time. How many parables did Jesus tell in the book of John?
Ooh, that's good. All right. So if you have the answer already or you're Googling it right now as we speak, just send that answer to harborlightbibletrivia@gmail.com, harborlightbibletrivia@gmail.com, all lowercase, and let us know the answer to that. And you could, get some swag for me. We still have water bottle koozies. We still have some hats. We have some things. I don't think the winter hats are going to go right now, but we have some things going on. So I do have one more mug from Hamill's Carpet, one of those real nice ones with the chrome top.
Yeah.
I have one of those left. So, I mean, we have some things that are available. And you never know what you're going to get. Anyways, we're going to take an ID break. We'll be right back.
Don't settle for insurance that won't cover your toys, home, or auto. There's a reason that Wilson Insurance is an industry leader in Northern Michigan. They're not in the business to sell insurance. They're in the business to be there when you need an agent most. That's Wilson Insurance. Petoskey.
Well, we're going to get into our Bible talk this week. We've started a series on Sunday called UnJesus Like Jesus. And last week Pastor Gary talked about Jesus getting hangry. And first glance of our text in Matthew chapter 21, verse 17 through 20, it does seem like Jesus got a little hangry when he was looking for figs and found nothing in the text. Pastor Gary, why don't you unwrap that for us?
Well, that was actually a little bit of fun. So I was trying to show the humanity of Jesus, and Jesus was 100% man when he's here on this planet, walking around, and he was 100% God, but he had set aside his divine privileges, and so he faced the same trials, temptations, difficulties, struggles that we face, every single one of them. He did it, of course, without sin. The Bible does say in Ephesians, be angry but sin not. I had someone really concerned that I had Jesus sinning by being hangry. I don't think it's a sin to be hangry. I think it's a real human thing to start getting a little edgy when you are hungry.
Right.
So they were really challenged with that. I don't think I stepped outside of the bounds of good preaching. But Jesus did appear as though he had already probably been up early in the morning praying, as that was his habit.
Yeah.
And now he's on his way into Jerusalem. This is in the Passion Week. This is the beginning of the Passion Week. So he's facing a very incredible, difficult time in the week coming up. He knows that he needs a little extra nutrition. And he goes to the fig tree and doesn't find any.
Yeah.
And we see his response, which is to curse the tree.
Right.
I would think that seemed to fit a lot of the formula of what we tend to find ourselves in when we get in that state. But and so that's what was going on. Now, of course, it was really, really fun as a pastor to lay this series out long before I even had started really digging in and realized that week number 1 on the clearing of the temple and the cursing of the fig tree are one and the same. They're happening dovetailed together.
Yeah.
In the book of Mark, he actually splits the event of the tree and puts the cleansing of the temple in the middle because it's called the Mark sandwich. Mark created 9 sandwiches in the Bible in the way he wrote to take a story, break it in half, put a story in the middle. The story in the middle is the peanut butter and jelly. It gives the meaning to the outside 2 slices of the bread. So that was kind of fun.
You made me hungry when we
action.
talked about that.
Yeah, it was really great. Did I talk about that in the service?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting hungry when you were talking about peanut butter and jelly. Well, we know. I mean, the idea of hangry, when you look it up as a definition, it talks about an impulsive reaction. And obviously, Jesus was not
impulsive.
He wasn't impulsive.
Right.
But, later on, we realized that there was a prophetic meaning for what he did. And you talked about that later on of why he dealt with that situation that was, being in the role of a prophet, too. He did bring out, the reason for this. The disciples finally got the answer to that. But I guess you can have people that just kind of hone in on
it's okay.
one section.
I'm used to it.
Did you hear the whole sermon?
Yeah.
Did you hear the whole sermon? Because eventually get to it. I mean, as a pastor, you do that. You try to get people hooked in with something that they can all relate to, and then you get into what really is happening there.
Well, it's really interesting, so it does work.
Yeah.
Because, people see that and they go, ooh, what's this going to be about?
Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah, and I come on. Whoever you are, it's okay. We love you.
Yep.
We love you. So getting into some of the questions of the text, the big question is, why did Jesus curse the fig tree?
Yeah, this is, and it actually becomes a stumbling block even for Christians because the way Mark writes it. Now we focused on Matthew, but Mark writes about it too. And Mark says, hey, it wasn't the season for figs. And that makes it feel like Jesus is being impulsive and vindictive and all those kind of things. Well, here's the thing that we learned about the figs. A fig tree produces its fruit before the leaves come on. So anytime there are leaves on a fig tree, there should be fruit.
Something.
Yep. And so Jesus, to see a fig tree, even if it's out of season, with leaves on it, it's more than fair to expect there to be fruit.
Yeah.
So he goes over and he finds no fruit. Now, of course, as you're alluding to, this is all symbolic of Israel, Israel's worship pattern, Israel's corruption of what's going on. And so Jesus sees no fruit, no people coming to faith in God because of Israel has reversed their mission and they push people away instead of bringing people in.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus is cursing. Now, the fig tree just happens to be the symbolic aspect of that cursing. Okay.
Right. And like you mentioned on Sunday, the fig tree is symbolic of their status in the promised land. I mean, the whole idea that a fig tree is growing in the promised land is a status of God's blessing upon them.
Yep.
Because the rest of the world around them was barren, didn't have a lot of stuff. You needed water source. You need those kind of things to grow the figs. It didn't just happen, by accident in the middle of a desert.
Right.
So those things are all status of God's blessing upon the people. So like you said on Sunday, it is prophetic in the sense that God had been blessing the people all this time, giving them his very presence in the temple, showing his favor towards them by protecting them from all these other nations. And yet when you get finally to the book of Micah, they're like, we can care less. We're just going to follow tradition, follow the rules that we have to follow. It doesn't really matter. And we're doing everything we should be doing. And God's like, forget the sacrifices. I think you mentioned that. It doesn't matter what you do. Your heart is not in it. You're not with me. And, kind of showing in that fig tree that you just mentioned on Sunday, it looks good, a lot of leaves, but no content.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and having our critter commander in the studio with us here, thinking about our hobby in the fall, which is deer hunting, there are lots of different ways in the previous years in Michigan to be able to draw a deer into your area. And one of them was bait. Right, you throw bait on the ground. That bait's going to be gone immediately as soon as the deer eats it. But if you put an apple tree there, you're going to get apples every year, right? And so that's a way to kind of connect this idea that this tree wasn't producing what it was there it created to do.
Yeah.
And so it actually was just taking up space and became a hindrance. And so it just kind of a fun little Northern Michigan tie-in to the message here.
So wait, hold on. You plant apple trees out where you're going to be baiting the deer?
That's the smartest move going.
That's what you guys do?
You can do apple trees, chestnuts.
Yep. I'm a chestnut guy myself.
Yeah. Food plots,
Really?
putting in different like clover, alfalfa, corn. I mean, you name it. You're not allowed to bait, but you can hunt over a live bait field.
Yep. Oh, I see. I
You
like
can
that.
either grow it or throw it, and we're growing it.
I like that. Yeah.
So Dave, do you want to kind of share a little bit of your experience with, having some expectations and having any of those expectations not fulfilled? Have you ever had anything like that happen?
Absolutely. Actually, I'm going through this right now. So every year I put in food plots. I went and bought a tractor. I go and till up the ground. I spray it. I do all the things you're supposed to do. And I have these weeds that just keep on coming in.
Yeah.
I seriously will spray with the stuff that you're not supposed to touch.
Agent Orange.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. So I spray it, the weed killer, the stuff that's probably in Roundup.
Yeah.
Maybe someday I'll get on that bandwagon, since we're on the bandwagon thing right now. But I do all the things you're supposed to do, and it still won't work out. Either the seeds don't take, or the weeds overtake the area. Right now I'm battling with these weeds that apparently are glyphosate proof because it's not working very well in certain spots. And then I'll plant, and sometimes it'll be perfect. All conditions are perfect, and I will plant the field. I'll pack the soil after it's done, and then no rain.
Yeah.
And those seeds aren't watered, and they're not fertilized, because guess what? Right now, I can't afford fertilizer. It's insane.
Yeah.
I got to run around with a bucket of chicken poop to throw it around, and it's extra work, right?
Yeah.
And even then, even if I do get rain, sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I had a perfect plot. I had everything. It was the most beautiful plot.
Yeah.
But guess what? There were no deer to eat it.
Really?
Yeah. So, kind of tying this whole thing together.
Yeah.
You can have this beautiful, perfect tree, and there's nobody around to enjoy it. If you're not bringing people in
Yeah.
to enjoy it, even if it's successful,
I like that.
then you're not creating, more disciples.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And no more deer.
Yeah.
You're not getting the deer that you were hoping for because you're not doing anything else to, I try new areas every year. I try new plants every year to see what they like. It just depends. It takes a lot of work, but it does pay off occasionally. And sometimes everything works properly and you end up harvesting a beautiful animal. But, I really liked how you tied it in, talking about us as Christians and followers of Christ. And we seem to get lackadaisical in our faith and complacent, and complacency kills.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really neat how you tied that in, and you were like, we need to be going out and creating fruit, showing our fruit, creating more fruit.
Yeah.
And, obviously.
And so Dave has illustrated what it says in Luke chapter 13. Jesus told the story, a man planted a fig tree in his garden, and he came again and again and again and didn't find any fruit. And after 3 years, he said, listen, it's time to cut this thing down. It's just taking up a bunch of space. And then the gardener, it's kind of fun because you've got the gardener and you've got the owner in this particular parable. He says, listen, let me work on it one more year. Let me fertilize it. Let me put the extra time in. And next year, if it doesn't produce, then go ahead and cut it down. And so Dave has kind of illustrated that for us when it comes to our passion in the fall, that you can put in a lot of time and effort. And if it doesn't produce, then you need to change things up. And that's what Jesus was doing. Now, as we're talking about this Mark sandwich, we got the bread is the story of the fig tree. That's on both sides. And then in the middle, the peanut butter and jelly is the clearing of the temple. And Jesus is saying, through this illustration of the fig tree, he's also saying, listen, the temple and its worship and its methodology, it's all going to come to the close here in about 40 years. Yeah. And that is exactly what happened. And so this is one continuous activity, or two elements combined together. The clearing of the temple and the cursing of the fig tree are really one and the same. And
this is exactly what he did. In 70 AD, the Romans just took it right down to the foundation.
Not one stone left on
Not one stone left on the other. And that's sort of symbolic of the fact that, you kill it from the roots up kind of thing. You mentioned that too.
Yeah, that was kind of fun too. It's very important when you read the scripture to read very specifically. So a tree dies from the top down, Jesus curses it, and it dies from the roots up, showing his divine power and power over nature. But it also shows symbolically that at this particular time, Hosea says the prophets were corrupt, the priests were corrupt, the leaders were corrupt, and the people were corrupt, and the whole form of worship was corrupt. So from the very basis all the way to the outer.
So it's a complete removal.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was listening to that when you were talking about it, Benny. I think that's something that as Christians we should be cautious of as well, right? Because if as we're walking in our faith journey, sometimes we kind of had this expectation that God's grace and mercy is going to just deal with us the top down. But there are times where we got stuff in our life that's been so rooted, like bitterness, those kind of things it talks about in Hebrews, where he has to dig that stuff out. It has to literally be dug out from the bottom up.
Yeah,
and that's not a good process, but it is something that sometimes God has to do. And you don't want to get in that place, right? You don't want to get in that position.
See how it seems a little bit hard to conceptualize, but let's say our actions are the fruit, our beliefs are at the root.
Yeah.
And our beliefs get wrong.
That's good.
And off, and it comes out in the fruit.
Yeah.
And so we're basically dying from the root out.
Right.
Spiritually.
And we wonder why.
Yeah.
And I think the Bible says that a lot because it talks about our heart, being sort of like the source of what we speak, our actions, all those different things. And that's sort of like the root of who we are, spiritually, physically. Those things are there. And if that's not dealt with right, what we say, how we act, how we react to things, those are all examples of what's really rooted in our heart.
Ideas have consequences.
Yes, they do. Okay, so Jesus, he curses the fig tree, and you mentioned already that he wasn't necessarily angry and annoyed like we would be, but he was upset in the sense that it kind of shows what was really going on there, and he uses a prophetic example. But what is another lesson that Jesus was trying to teach his disciples as they were paying attention? I know we see that he talks about the prophetic meaning, but what do you think because the disciples necessarily didn't get the hint until like the second day they came by and
this is something we didn't necessarily explore on Sunday morning, but it's connected to the idea from Mark 11:24 that what you speak can happen. The power of words, the power of the things that we say. He says, hey, listen, boys, this is nothing. You can speak to this mountain and have it cast into the sea.
Yeah.
If you ask, believe, and receive is the way it goes. And so that's the deeper meaning of what he has going on here, besides the work of the temple and what true passionate worship looks like. He's also teaching them that what they believe about things and what they speak into things can have incredible blessing or curses.
Yeah. I think it's cool how you made that comparison because you notice in the text it comes right after this whole thing. And it's almost like a comparison of the fact of this is the power of tradition, religion, it's going to die. But this is the power you have through me when I'm in your life, when I'm the center of what you're doing, which is what they could have had, right? Israel could have had the power to do so many things. They were called the missionaries, called to be missionaries when they first started. And so they kind of let that go, right? They just kind of became lackadaisical, apathetic about things. And it's almost like a lesson to the disciples too, right? That, you don't want to be in that
that's what Dave's kind of talking about, right? The same pattern that Israel was on, modern day Christianity is on that same exact pattern.
Yeah.
And we're becoming more and more accepting of things that are not of God.
Right.
I mean, and all those things creep in, which I like to say the weeds in the food plot, creeping in and destroying it.
Yep.
That's a
Absolutely.
really good analogy. I'm glad you brought that
Thank
up.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's good. Yeah, that'd preach. That'd preach on it. Yeah.
That'll
I like
preach.
that. Yeah.
So it is kind of interesting, Pastor Alex, to put a capper on that question. The disciples ask, Jesus, how did you get this thing to wither so quickly? And he answers by saying, throw the mountains into the sea.
Yeah.
So he's the one that connects this power of your words and your belief and your prayer to the actions of what's going on around you.
Right. And doesn't it seem like he's almost giving them sort of insight into the fact that they do have power through him. They did have power of Israel, but they let it go. They have, this is the power right here through me. When you're working through me, these things can happen. Just as you've seen your past and history, you would have seen that as well. And it does seem to be a part of the Christian experience is that, when we come to worship on Sunday, worship is not just an act. It's an expression of our faith journey. It's an expression of what God's doing in our heart. When we pray, it's an expression of our language and our conversation with God. All these things are powerful to helping us be what we need to be, the fig tree that's producing.
Right. Here's the scary thing. Here's the scary thing. If you come to worship and you're not connecting your heart with what's going on, it's like a fig tree with lots of leaves and no fruit. It's apostasy. It's going against, it's blasphemy.
Yeah.
Wow. That all of a sudden, that's the other thing we have going on here is no gray stuff in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just pretending. You're playing church. You're not being a part of the church.
Superficiality.
Yeah, superficiality. Yeah.
Yep.
That's never a good place to be. But it's unfortunate. The devil a lot of times gets us so overwhelmed by the sin garbage in our life to where we can't get to that point, and then it just becomes a religion.
Yep.
With no power, no power, and you can live like that for a long time. You can practice that till the day you die. Because I've seen Christians go to church for 30 years doing that.
Yep.
I've been to a lot of churches that were like that.
Yeah. And it's terrible, isn't it?
It's and I get it, I guess, from a human standpoint.
Yeah.
But I felt nothing there. I
Right.
mean, and it felt stagnant and unanointed. It just did not feel good. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm back here.
Yeah. Right. Well, we're glad to have you back, Dave.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, so the purpose of the fig tree, really, as you got into it later on, was about the prophetic meaning. Eventually, that's what we were talking about. You know, the action of Jesus was really just to ignite the conversation or ignite the prophetic meaning behind it. And it was about Israel's walk away from God.
Yeah.
Basically, he was prophesying what was going to happen. Was the fulfilling purpose that you see something that when you look at it from the perspective of how Jesus dealt with it, are you seeing that being fulfilled now within the church?
I do see where it was important for us to kind of make clear that figs are fruit, figs are people in the context in which we're talking, right? Because there are other fruit of the Spirit that we have in our lives,
Right, yeah.
Which Dave kind of mentioned ago, that we use our fruit of our Spirit to help create more fruit. But in the context of what we're talking about, fruit are people, right? Are you producing more believers?
Right, yeah.
Is the church producing more believers? At this particular time, Israel, the temple worship was not producing more fruit, okay? And then the fig tree itself is the system in which you're creating the fruit.
Yeah.
Jesus curses the fig tree. He curses the system. And, then we went on to read about Matthew chapter 7. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit.
Yeah.
Right? Because the tree is the nurturing of the fruit. So it was super important for us to recognize that, and that Harbor Light has a responsibility to produce fruit. And we as believers have a responsibility to be a part of the system that produces the fruit, but we also produce fruit in our own lives as well. And, and so that's when Dave's talking to his friends and sending them more podcasts and getting them interested in the things about, the scripture and about Jesus and about how real relationship with Jesus looks and feels and has the impact on our lives. He's doing it. He's producing fruit as a believer, but he's also producing fruit because he's leading worship on Sunday morning, and he's passionately doing it, and people are drawn into worship because he's using his gifts and talents. And it was really fun to be able to show how Harbor Light is just one of God's churches, but how we have, put 4 concepts together to help us create the fig tree that produces the fruit that we're getting.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point you bring up too, because the system, God doesn't necessarily always need a system to purvey his message around the world, but the system he did put in place through the church And so what that means is that there are some system fig trees that are in the world today that God's going to bring down even today. It's not going to be something that happens to all of us, but there are churches that God removes because they are not operating in the fact that they are bringing people into the kingdom. They're just there. They're just hanging out, taking up soil. Comfortable, yeah. And so just because this was something that Jesus was talking about Israel, trust me, it happens in our world today.
I think as you're talking about this, it's coming to my mind. Anytime you get 2 or 3 Christians together, you need a system.
Yeah, you do.
Look at what happened in the Acts chapter 2 at the end of the chapter. And the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread and prayer. And everyone was filled with awe as many signs and wonders were taking place. And then we read in Acts chapter 4 that they gathered daily in the temple. They gathered in each other's houses. They broke bread together and they prayed.
Yeah.
That was the system that they were using. They were praying for people. They're being healed. They're being set free. That draws people into the church. They're preaching the gospel. They're explaining the scriptures. That brings people into faith in Jesus. So their system was working.
Right, yeah.
Because Holy Spirit was igniting it, empowering it. And, whatever's happening with us. So I've been involved in different activities. Like I did drift triking for a while, right? And so we had a group of guys that we drift trike together almost every Friday night. But there was a deeper reason we were getting together to do this. It was to take young men who are lost and not sure what's going on, give them something super fun and entertaining, and then present the gospel to them. And we did it every time we gathered together. We would talk about the Lord and what He's doing in our scriptures. So we just used drift triking as our example.
Yeah.
All right. You could do deer hunting. You could do whatever it is. What system does God want to use through you to produce more fruit?
And I think it's interesting how you always tend to find the extreme sports that make people really want to call on God. Like drift triking down hills that are going 100 miles an hour on a trike.
What's super great is we did have some fruit produced from that. We had at least one young man accept Jesus Christ directly because of that event. But we had a guy one time drift triking break his ankle. It swelled up about this big immediately.
Oh my gosh.
We prayed for him, and before he made it down the hill, the swelling was gone.
Oh, that's awesome.
Ankle was completely healed. No joke. I'm telling you the absolute truth here. And that caused people to have the same expression Dave has on his face right now. Their eyes were wide open because they helped pray.
They're like, what?
They saw his ankle swell up this big. And when we get to the bottom of the hill, his ankle is back down to normal.
That's a testimony of God's
power. Let me tell you what, that gets people excited about accepting Jesus.
Well, and you know what? Like, I shouldn't even have that expression because that's what our God does.
Okay.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's
cool.
Yeah. There's songs about that.
Yeah. That's how Pastor Gary gets into this, like bringing people to Jesus. I'm a little more subtle and calm. I find the sports that nobody's going to have to die in.
Chess.
That's right. We're going to do chess. We're going to have a book club together and talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
Scrapping.
Yeah. I had a guy that was really frustrated with our drift triking club because we were going past his house and he just didn't like us having fun. So he called one time and he's giving me the hard time and he's just like, I don't think Christians should be doing this. And I'm like, listen, sir, I'm trying to reach young men, and finger painting and flower arrangements, they're not working. So we're going to do drift triking. So just help us out. And he kind of backed off a little bit because of that. But, I'm helping change lives of young men. We're just using something that would pull them in and then present the gospel. And what's the best, right? We could do a healing service on Sunday morning. That would be awesome.
Right.
But we did a healing service on the side of a hill, Beau Rivage Road, out in North Harbor Springs. And men got to see a miracle take place. And now they recognize Jesus Christ and his power is real.
That is cool. I think it's awesome. I'm more of the craft guy.
It's awesome.
Today we're going to do pottery. And we're going to talk about Jesus.
I created a weaving loom, and I really want you guys to see this.
Hey, man, I make a lot of hats in the winter.
Be careful you don't poke yourself with that needle.
I do. I make.
Don't run with your crochet needles,
That's
Alex.
I know. It was so funny because when my wife and we do like different things. She would do set up ministries for the women. It's always a craft night or whatever, and then they have Bible study. And somehow she's like, "You always find a way to show up." And I'm like, "Because I like crafts." I'm just saying. I like crafting.
I love crafting.
I know.
Please let me.
I'm not ashamed to tell people I love crafting. Okay.
Well, I got to tell you, this is just my own personal, I totally loved when Jesus finds fruit hanging from a tree.
Yeah.
And his name was Zacchaeus. And the fact that it was a fig tree on top of all of that, that was super exciting for me. I couldn't wait to get to the end of the message to be able to drop that little golden egg on everyone. It was just super fun. And of course he does that outside of a church. and then to be able to hear. And then we broke down, the responses of Zacchaeus. Wasn't it fun to be able to look at the way the world saw Zacchaeus and the world, and the way that Jesus saw Zacchaeus? Ambition, not afraid of what people thought, foresight, ran ahead, interested in Jesus, right? Oh man, all of those things were super fun. And that was from Holy Spirit, and I was excited to be able to share what he had shared with me.
What a great disciple opportunity for Jesus to see Zacchaeus to be like, everyone else is like, oh man, like tax collectors are scum of the earth. Please, no, not him. And he's like, hey, Zacchaeus, what's up, man? I'm coming over later, right?
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. And Jesus invites himself over. That's the best.
Yeah.
I got to be in your house today.
That's like that's my kind of Jesus, right?
Yeah, there you go.
I did look that up, the sycamore fig.
Yes.
That one's propagated by lice.
What?
For real?
For real.
Dude, you're killing me.
Yeah.
I know it's part of the mulberry
Yeah.
as well. There's a mulberry sycamore fig, which is all Middle East. Our sycamore trees that we have in the U.S. are not.
No.
We're connected to the maple family. But anyways, that's interesting. Lice.
And so that's why it fell out of favor. Like people would not eat the fruit most of the time unless they're like desperate. But they were propagated by a type of lice.
Hakuna Matata.
I wonder if it was like a camel lice or what.
I don't know, but I'm thinking I would just pass it up anyways. I don't even care. Yeah, it's not good. Anyways, that's just something for you to talk about on the barbecue.
Yeah, you need to talk about lice a lot.
I'm telling you right now, if you're a vegetarian and you're hearing all this stuff, there is a good chance you might need to give it up. I'm just saying.
Because you're really not a true vegetarian because you're eating.
Yeah. You're eating, if you eat a real fig, you're eating wasp eggs and dead wasp. If you ever get a chance to eat a sycamore fig, you're going to eat some lice, a type of lice. It's not like the lice we think of in our head, but a type of lice. It's just nasty. Okay, just give it up already. You know what? Just go to the buffet and eat a big steak and you'll be happy. I'm just saying. Anyways, that's the end of our show. Pastor Gary, you got anything to wrap it up with before?
No, just come on back this weekend. We get to talk about Jesus rambling in riddles. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We already sparked it a little bit today, even in our conversation. Isn't it funny how many times the disciples would ask him a direct question, he'd give him like a very vague or disconnected answer? It's like, Jesus, what are you doing? Wouldn't it be amazing to have a conversation with him and you can't get a straight answer out of the guy?
I got a story for that.
The title of the sermon would have been interesting if you said, how is Jesus and Biden the same? That would have been an interesting title.
Oh, that'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
The house would have been packed.
They'd be like, what? All right, we're going to see you next week. Just remember to take the more challenge. If you guys are having problems feeling healthy in your week, remember just a few more vitamins and nutrition that come from the More podcast will definitely make you feel a lot happier in your immediate diet. And you'll feel like $1 million gospel bucks.
And we promise you there are no wasp eggs or lice involved.
No, we don't. This is all natural without the help of any of that garbage. Anyways, we'll talk to you next week.
We want you to know, find, discover, change with us. More podcast ending transmission. Now.